Okay, so welcome back to the video number 2, and on the previous one we talked about the importance of pitch, phase, velocity, and discussed the difference between a gate and a trigger. But now we know the difference between a gate and a trigger, right? So on this one we're going to expand all of this. I'm going to go to the pulse. I'm going to bring a pulse oscillator, and then I'm going to bring an oscilloscope so I can see what is going on right here. So if I expand this and make it a little bit bigger, we can see and we can, kind of predict what is going on right here. So we have a pulse. The pulse goes up, then goes down, and then goes up. And we can see what is going on and predict it. So right here, if I press a C3, of course, we're going to get that. And if I play a higher key, we're going to get much more of this. But, it's very repetitive. Okay, so what we need to do before we can talk about the retrigger, and this is going to be the topic of this pretty much the whole section, is going to be how we can retrigger the phase of a waveform. And if I go right here and hover, it's going to say retrigger on device incoming notes. Okay, so first we need to learn how this works before we can even decide when we want to retrigger it. So right now, and notice that we have the yellow button right here. So if I press it many times, notice that this one is not going to change. And this is by default how it works. So if I play the same key, nothing's happening. If I play a different key, of course, we have a different tune. We are playing a different key, so the frequency is going to change. But if I play the same one, nothing changes. So we can see how this is going. It's going up, and then it's going down, and then up, and then down, and then up, and then down. So we can divide this in multiple parts. Again, because it's a pattern. We can predict that this is a repetitive pattern. So this one is going up at some point, and we have right here the zero crossing point. This is going to be the line that divides the positive, which is this one, and the negative, that is going to be this one. So if this goes up and then goes down, starting from here, goes up and then goes down, at some point it's going to cross this 0 point. And then it's going to go down to negative, and then go right here, and then it's going to go all the way back. So if you think about this section, it's a pattern, and then it's going to repeat itself over and over and over again. Now, this, of course, always depends on the waveform that you're using, but this is a cycle. This is half of a cycle, and this is going to be the other half of a cycle. So this is a full cycle. And we can say that right here is going to positive, and right here is going to negative. How much is going to positive? Well, that depends on the synthesizer or the oscillator. On Bitwig, things go to +1 or go to -1. And how they go up, if you go to +1 or -1, or maybe to plus 0.5, that's going to be the amplitude right here. But we're going to talk about that on a different section. So now we know that this is the phase. We can predict that it's going up and it's going down. We know that we have a cycle, then we have a full cycle. And sometimes, it depends on the oscillator, this is going to be a little bit different. In this case, this one goes up right here, goes down, and then meets right here. And then we repeat the pattern, and we repeat the pattern over and over again. Okay, and again, for different oscillators, it just works a little bit different. But at the end of the day, it's the same idea. So let me just go back to the pulse. So I will bring an audio out because I want to listen what I'm doing. And I'm going to go all the way down in volume, and I'm going to connect this oscillator. So we can hear what this oscillator is doing. It's a little bit annoying. So if I play new keys, notice, of course, this still changes. But at the end of the day, we can still predict that this is going up, this is going down, and it ends right here, and then we have it again and again and over and over and over and so on. Right? So we can predict this. Now, I'm going to go back down in volume. So now we know when it's positive, when it's negative. Now we know that we have a 0 crossing point. We know that we have cycles. We have half of a cycle or a full cycle. And we know how we can, predict this. So now, what the retrigger is going to do? Well, remember that when we play a key, it's not retriggering. And this is by default on Bitwig. It will not retrigger on incoming notes. So this button is going to do just that. It's going to retrigger the device on incoming notes. on device incoming notes. And when it says device, it's talking about the device, the whole synthesizer. So it means that when we enable, when I play a key, it's going to re-trigger this. So the starting and the ending of every cycle and everything else is going to start to shift. And what is going to decide when to shift is going to be when we play a key. So if I play a new key and I'm going to go up in volume, it's going to start shifting, right? So we start on different places. Now we can still predict what's going on right here. And we don't hear a change in sound because we are always playing the same frequency. But we can predict what's going on right there. All right. So this, again, the retriggering makes the shift, makes the phase shift. Now, if you think about this, and I'm going to go to an envelope and bring an envelope because right now it's super annoying. So I would like to do something like that. Okay, so since we know now that we have this retrigger on incoming notes, what's going to happen if we connect something else to retrigger this? Maybe I don't want to use the keyboard. I don't want to play a key to have the phase restart. I don't want that. So we know that we can go to input and output and bring the phase. And this is going to be the device phase. And notice that the device phase by default is going to be 1 bar. It's going to look like this. It's going to start at some point, then it's going to go up and then down and starts over and over and over again. So we have a phase. So if I use this one to re-trigger the phase of this one, notice that something is going to start to happen. It's going to start to move. Now, if I go to the device phase and go faster, we're going to perceive that this one is moving. So what the F is going on? So, well, this phase, this one is instructing this one, the oscillator, when it needs to retrigger its phase. So we perceive that it's moving because this is a very a timed instruction. Remember that this one is going to follow the tempo of your session, and it has a timeline. It has a life cycle. So we've perceived that it's moving because this one is following the phase of the device phase. It's retriggering by following this instruction. Now, why do we care about this? Okay, so we do care because we can get different things with this. I'm gonna put this oscillator right here, and I'm gonna go and bring a new oscillator. If I put this one and make it blue, and I'm gonna connect it right here, notice that they are different. That when the other one is starting, the other one is going up, and so on and so on and so on. If I delete it again, and I'm gonna bring it again and put it right here, notice that now it's different. So by default on Bitwig, what Bitwig is going to do, when you have different oscillators or different voices, the phase is going to shift a little bit from each other. And this is something that, it works by default. If you go right here and you say voices and it says true, you notice it says this allows for droning patches in the closer analog behavior. And the keyword right here is analog behavior. So it does this by default to get that an analog sound. If I go to digital, notice that it's going to go false silence. And if I play a key, notice that I have the yellow key right here. So everything is going to be like in the same spot, it's right in the same place. So it's a little bit different from what we had from before. And if I make it true, there's going to still follow the same relationship until I change the retrigger. Now they are retriggering at the same time. So if I do this, now this one is going to be retriggering on incoming notes, but the other one is going to stay the same. So if I start playing a key, notice that the red one stays the same because we are not retriggering on incoming notes, but the blue one is going to start to shift. Right. Right, so what do we care? Why are we talking about this, and what is the importance of this? So okay, so let me just bring a different waveform. I'm going to bring a sine wave. Now, all the oscillators on Bitwig, this oscillators in this case, are just a little bit different because they can do many things. They can do multiple things. So in this case, this is going to be a sine wave. So if I play a key, remember we are retriggering this one and not this one. So the phase is going to retrigger and start on a different place, on different spots. Now what happens if I do retrigger on both? what do you think is going to happen? I'm going to go right there and play a key. And we are retriggering both at the same time. So they are kind of aligned. Right? And that is fine. That's how it works. We are retriggering both oscillators. So they are super aligned. And we can see that right here, they're joining on this spot. And they're joining right here and joining right here. Not all oscillators are going to be doing the same thing or kind of give you the same result on Bitwig. For example, sometimes if I bring a phaser right here, and this is something we are going to be covering on a few sections, and I go to data, for example, and I do the same trick. I'm going to get a sine wave, and I'm going to go to display and bring a new oscilloscope. I'm going to put it right there. And this one is going to be the yellow one, I guess. Going to be yellow. And I'm going to do the red one. And I'm going to retrigger on incoming notes. Notice that we get something different. We are doing the same. This one, at the end of the day, it's going to be a sine wave. And we are retriggering all the things at once when I play a key. But notice that right here, the relationship between the waveforms is a little bit different. Now, still, it doesn't matter for our case. They sound pretty close. They sound pretty much the same because we are doing a sine wave and a square, and we are doing the same pitch. Now, the trick right here and the interesting part of this is what's going to happen when we start offsetting them. And who is going to be retriggering this oscillator or this oscillator? Okay. So we know that we can use a phase or we can use something else to retrigger this oscillator. So what happens if I decide to grab this oscillator and say, dude, now this is going to be the one, this is going to be the one, this oscillator is going to retrigger the phase of the sine wave. And notice as soon as I connect this, if I do this, they are kind of in the pocket. And if I do this, it's going to shift and it's going to do pretty much what the other one was doing. So this one, now it's providing an instruction, right? And we can hear it because this is what we, it's connected to the out, this one. But the same phase is retriggering the sine wave, and it's telling how the sine wave should align to the phase of the first one. And we do have a name for this. This one is going to be the master oscillator, and this one is going to be the slave oscillator. Why is it slave? Well, because it's retriggering its phase, and the one who's calling the shots is going to be the first oscillator, which is the master. So now this is a master and this is the slave. Now right now, since this one is calling the shots and we are doing the same semitones, we are on the same spot, the ratios are the same and we are playing the same key, we don't hear a lot of a difference, right? We just don't. We don't see a lot of differences as well. So what happens if I start to shift? If I start to shift this oscillator and shift it, start offsetting it from the pitch of this one. If I go right here to the semitones and I start going up, notice what starts to happen. So I'm going to go maybe to 6. Now, remember we talked about how predictable the waveform is and that we can predict when it's going up, when it's going down, when it's starting, and when it's ending. So right now, when we shift the semitones, this one, again, remember the sine wave is retriggering to the phase of this one. But when we offset it, it's going to start doing something weird. So when we offset it, of course, this sine wave is going to go faster because it's going to go 6 semitones up. So we have a different waveform from this one. We have a different speed, we have a different frequency. So this one is going up at some point, it's starting, and right here we have the pattern. If I go up, the sine wave goes up, then goes down, and then goes up, and then at some point is going to meet the starting of the new cycle of the square. So when it reaches right here, it's going to say, oh, now I remember I am retriggering and following the master oscillator, which is the square. So I'm sorry, square, I'm going to restart my cycle and I'm going to start over again right here at the bottom. So the whole thing repeats. It's going to go up, it's going to go down, and when it reaches the cycle, the end of the cycle, is going to restart its cycle, right? So in conclusion, this one, it's telling the oscillator 2, the sine wave, this master is telling the slave when to restart its cycle and how to behave if we change, if we change the semitones, if we change the pitch. Again, master, slave. This one is retriggering on the following the phase of the master oscillator. Isn't that how oscillator sync works? The phase of the slave will restart to be in sync with the master phase. So yeah, we are doing oscillator sync. This one is telling when the oscillator 2 needs to retrigger or restart the waveform or restart its cycle. So we go up, we go down, and when this one is meeting the end or the start of the cycle of this master is restarting the cycle and over and over and over again. Now, at the end of the day, what we care is about how it sounds. So if I go right here at the bottom and maybe do something a little bit more normal, I'm going to bring a mixer. Why not? I'm going to go there. I'm going to connect this one as the first one, this one as the second one, and I'm going to disconnect this one because we don't want that anymore. And I'm going to bring it right here. And I'm going to connect this, and this one is going to be the second one. So now if we try to listen what's going on, we are going to get this one and we are going to get that one. So let me go up in volume. So if I play something, we could hear that it's just a little bit different. If I go back to the same thing we had before, they are kind of aligned and playing on the same spot, we have a dollar sound. Right? If I start shifting, yeah. So that is what we get. So by playing with this, with retriggering the waveform, we start to get different sounds. Now, of course, the magic happens when you start, modulating this feature, or maybe you add a different oscillator and you start to shift the semitones or shift the frequencies. But someone is going to be doing the instruction, going to be sending an instruction of when the other ones, the slave ones, needs to restart. And this is going to, of course, take you to get that different sound because we are restarting the phase. Okay, so let's start over and let's try to reuse what we've just learned to create kind of a, just a nice sound. So I'm going to go to audio out, and we know that one. I'm going to bring an envelope, and this envelope is going to be, I don't know, an AR. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of make it an AR, an ADSR, but I'm just going to use it as an AR. What else? I'm going to bring a mixer so we can mix different sounds, and I'm going to put it right here. And what I want to do that classic oscillator sync. So I'm going to go to a pulse, then I'm going to bring maybe a sine wave, and I'm going to make this one blue, and I'm going to bring maybe a saw, and I'm going to make this one green, so we can just, identify them. So this one is going to be the first one right here, and I'm going to put it right there. This one is going to be the second one, and this one is going to be the third one. So at the end of the day, we are going to be connecting all of this. It's going to be a little bit loud. So if I play something, of course, I need to connect the out. It's going to sound like that, right? So we are playing the three oscillators at the same time. We have the same semitones. We are in the same spot. We are not doing anything differently, right? So again, let's try to reuse what we just learned. We can use this one to retrigger the slaves. So now is the master and the other ones are the slaves. So how this is going to sound. So it sounds cool, but it doesn't sound that cool. Now the magic with oscillator sync happens when you start to offset the pitch of the oscillators. So on this one, I'm going to go to maybe 8 or something like that. And on this one, I don't know, I'm going to go to, 3. Let's just throw a number. Notice that the sound really changes when you start offsetting the oscillators. Now, if I bring an envelope, I'm going to use this envelope to do the same thing. I'm going to start moving the semitones or the pitch of the slave oscillators to get that classic, again, oscillator sync sound. I'm going to go right there. And I'm going to go really up on this one. I'm going to go 19, just just to go someplace. And then this one gonna go 10. Why not? And of course, if we want it, if we can change it later. So now if I play it, right? So we get that cool kind of a classic oscillator sync sound. Now everything sounds really trashy when we are not using effects. So I'm gonna bring a delay and I'm gonna bring a reverb. And for now, I'm not gonna do anything because, you know, I'm just gonna leave them on the default patch. So if I play something, let me just, you know, do something like that. Right? So we didn't do much. We just used what we've learned, and we did very little. 3 oscillators. These ones are restarting, and then when we do so, we offset the pitch of the other ones. It's a classic oscillator sync sound. And if we wanted to, we can just, you know, keep expanding this and adding maybe shapers or different effects. We can even make it go, maybe go right here and start LFOing this one. So if I notice that now we can hear that this one is moving at some point. So right, so very cool classic sound. What if we wanted to bring a filter, you know, something very normal that we get on any synthesizer? Right now we are not even using a filter. So if I bring maybe this one just to bring something, this one is going to start, of course, doing the filtering. But maybe I want to add some movement, so maybe we can go to an envelope and kind of provide some movement to this one. And I'm going to say that I want to go up at some point. And at this point, I'm just kind of doing things just for doing things. Let me do something like that. And I'm going to do the same to the resonance, so we can have a little bit of resonance. So there you go, you know, just using a very simple concept, which is the retrigger of the envelope. And then we just used something very simple, you know, a mixer, a little bit of filtering, and a little bit of envelope. But everything that we use was, you know, the knowledge that we just acquired, that it's how the retrigger is going to affect sound, especially when we use something to retrigger the waveform, retrigger the phase. And if we use the master oscillator, we're going to get that classic sync sound. So we've learned the importance of phase and how we can manipulate it at some point. And this is just the beginning. So notice on each oscillator right here that you have the purple in right here, not the yellow one, the purple one. So this one is going to be the phase in. So we can use the phase of something to do phase modulation on each oscillator. And this is going to be a game changer for you, because we can create an amazing amount of sounds. I would like to say infinite amount of sounds, depending on what we are feeding to this control, and depending on which oscillator or what we are doing or how we are retriggering the waveform. So this was the first step. So we can go and learn this one on the next video. Now, of course, if you like this and you find this useful, leave a comment down below and let me know, because if no one watches this, no one likes this, why keep on doing this, right? So remember to like and, of course, subscribe, and to leave a message if you can. Now, of course, if you have the money, you can go to Patreon and buy me a coffee if you want, and only if you have the money, if you can afford it. And that's it. So see you on the next one.